For more now, I want to bring in Matthew Miller, former spokesman for then Attorney General Eric Holder at the Department of Justice. He has been critical of Comey's actions in the Clinton email case. And Hugh Hewitt, MSNBC contributor. Hugh Hewitt was also a special assistant to two attorneys general and assistant counsel in the White House General Counsel Office of Personnel Management. Matt Miller, let me start with you. Let me ask you this. If you're the FBI director and you find out, as James Comey did sometime in the past month, about the existence of these apparently thousands of emails that his people believe may be pertinent, I think they said probably are pertinent to this investigation, what should you do?
Yeah, absolutely say nothing. You should do what attorneys general, FBI directors, other prosecutors have done for decades, which is take no steps that could be interpreted by the public as trying to influence the election one way or the other. I mean, this actually has never before even been a close call. Not only will prosecutors oftentimes not say things about cases when it's close to election, which they usually don't say things about cases anyway, oftentimes they won't even take investigative steps for fear that it might leak and then unfairly tarnish a candidate. So what Comey did was really beyond precedent. Now when you look at this latest report from CNBC, where he wouldn't even sign off on the statement naming Russia, did not mention Trump at all, the contrast is pretty stark.
Hugh Hewitt, what do you say to that?
I think Matt is wrong. I believe that, in fact, the director did what he had to do, given his answer to Congressman Sensenbrenner went under oath before the House. I also want to point out that in the Devlin Barrett blockbuster piece in the Wall Street Journal this morning, he is quoting Director McCabe, Deputy Director McCabe, as telling the Department of Justice, are you telling me to shut down a validly predicated investigation? Because the other big blockbuster of the day is that there is a vast investigation into the Clinton Foundation. 4 different FBI field offices are involved in the pay-to-play investigation for the Clinton Foundation. So while we have the 650,000 emails, of which some may or may not have been previously disclosed, and they have to be looked at, maybe they weren't reached by the bleach pit, we also have a parallel line of leaks coming out of the FBI that show everybody knows the Russians was involved in this, but they didn't know about the Clinton Foundation investigation. They didn't know about the Wiener laptop. I believe voters are best served by the most information possible. So I'm with John Cornyn. I'm with Trey Gowdy. There are some Republican critics of Director Comey, but I think that if he had held this and a gun emerges, the FBI would have been irreparably damaged.
Yeah, I mean, Matthew Miller, that is the question. I'm trying to imagine a scenario here where the election comes and goes, and let's say the polls we've been looking at were all right, Hillary Clinton wins this thing, and then 3 weeks from now, sometime in November, we find out that, wow, you know, a couple weeks before the election, the FBI, and this issue had dominated the campaign so much, the FBI found all of this out. I mean, there'd be loud cries of a cover-up then, wouldn't there?
Well, here's the problem. If they had found a smoking gun, we might be having a different conversation. You could argue, I think there are arguments against it, but you could make a credible argument that if they had a smoking gun of inappropriate activity, that maybe that is something the voters need to know. But the FBI director hasn't provided any more information here. In fact, the FBI itself doesn't even know what they have. All he's done by releasing this letter is led people to make assumptions, led people to be able to hurl innuendos, which is exactly why the rules have always said you don't do this type of thing. People, when people hear that something is being investigated, they assume the worst, even though it's often benign. And in this case, we know a lot of these emails are going to appear to be duplicates. So the rules are there because, you know, people will misinterpret investigations when, in fact, we actually don't have any factual information about what happened.
Yeah, so Hugh Hewitt, between now and the election, what more do you think James Comey owes the public? What specifically should he be saying between now and the election?
Only if there is a smoking gun do I think he ought to come forward. An exoneration would be wildly viewed as rigged. I would believe, though, I want to correct something Matt says. We know there are 650,000 emails on the Wiener laptop. We know that the FBI is going to be able to quickly segregate those that have previously not been reviewed by the FBI, including those that may have been bleach-pitted and found to have been unrecoverable during the first investigation. If within those, let's call them the X set, the X files of new emails, to the Secretary of State, they find any evidence of that standard that Director Comey articulated in the summer of gross recklessness, the indictment becomes real again. And so that's why he had to act. We only know that there's 650,000. We don't know how many are new. We don't know when it's going to be done. But I'll tell you, it's not going to be done before the election. And I myself believe, given what I've been told by a retired Assistant United States Attorney about the way this Microsoft Outlook function works. I posted it over at HughHewitt.com. They're going to find everything that will go to the Secretary's intent. It may exonerate her, it may convict her, it may indict her, but they will find out. I don't think he comes forward unless he has a smoking gun. If he does have a smoking gun, he ought to come forward, but we're probably not going to have enough time.
And we should also point out that 650,000 number. We don't know how many of those were Huma Abedin's. We know this was a shared laptop, apparently, with Anthony Weiner. So that's, among other things, information that's yet to be released publicly. Anyway, Matthew Miller.